Hey everyone, welcome back to Dr. D.C.A YouTube channel. If you like this kind of content, please like, subscribe, and tell your friends about it. I'm going to put in description my Twitter handle as well. Follow me over there for more useful information about crypto and United States stock market. Okay, so it's been a while, so I want to go through first the Nasdaq index as usual. And we have been following this diagonal trend line. There was a correction, right? We said like this is a resistance line around 14,400, 300, right? It got rejected over there, which is kind of expected because it's a long time resistance, right? And this is not a big correction at all, and it's reversing. The reason it's reversing is because US job data came out and it wasn't that good, basically. So it's technically it's a bad news, but it's becoming a good news because the stock market is thinking that United States federal government is basically done with raising the rates. We have talked about this chart, which shows US stock market versus the federal interest rate. And even on the rising rate, because inflation was coming down, the stock market actually went up, but it actually starts blossoming when the rate starts coming down. So the example is right here, right? When they're down, there's a massive bull cycle, right? And that's what potentially stock market is expecting, that the raising of the rates is done, and maybe it's going to stay stagnant, or if we see any issues with the economy, which in my opinion right now it's strong, but if you see something breaking up, then they will start reducing the rate and the stock market would rally because all the risk assets go higher and higher when the interest rates are low, as we have seen since like 2010, right? Also in the COVID time, you can see like it just went to zero, and what happened? It just like skyrocketed the stock market, right? So we start with this Nasdaq. I really think this is going to touch the all-time high, right? Once this resistance is broken, there's not much stopping, and it could just go and touch this. However, there might be some side reaction, and I'll explain why. I think there might be some side reaction to touch this diagonal line, because I was looking at the inflation data, and it's like stabilizing. So it's not just like falling anymore, right? So there might be a bad reading in terms of US inflation rate, right? And when that happens, there might be confusion in the market, because see, markets don't like uncertainty, right? So if there's uncertainty, it's going to be like, okay, what's the next reading is going to be, what the Fed is going to do, and so forth, right? So if even a single reading comes higher, the market could just take a hit, right? But we still have like a strong support on this line. So it may just come even like 5, 7, 10% of this gets supported. And as I said, in the worst case scenario, the line that I'm watching is going to be this one, 12.2, right? That might be the bottom if we get like a big correction. Let's just see how much it is if it goes there. So yeah, it's around 12, 13%, right? So if it gets corrected, that would be our next support, right? And the reason to see this as a support is because this is like the line that's been touched so many times, right? In terms of the resistance, if that becomes support, is actually bullish overall for long term. All right. The other thing we talked about, this is more of like a reminder that also Bitcoin does pretty well in low interest rate environment. And that's potentially why Bitcoin is not doing much, because the interest rate is pretty high. So it's going to wait until we get back to the 2% level, and that may take a year, and it's fine. The next year is happening, right? So now let's go back to Bitcoin chart. I think Bitcoin chart is pretty interesting. The reason it's interesting is because we have been watching this diagonal line. This trend is broken, right? When this dump happened from like 29 to 26, this line is broken. However, we have been watching this resistance line, since inception of this channel, where this resistance has been like a reverse head and shoulder, right? And it got broken. However, it's been supported as well. So, but this is a lifeline. Now, if this is broken, we may see some sort of capitulation, right? And that is highly likely, because the bearishness I'm seeing is because there was a good news of one of the companies, I think it's called Grayscale, which tried to convert their stock, sort of a company, into Bitcoin ETF. And they had some lawsuit, and it got it was in their favor. However, the bounce wasn't that big, right? And there's not much of continuation. It was like a pump, but then it's like consolidation, but it's not like consolidation. So if the news was that good, it should have just broken out of this box that we have been watching for a while, but it did not, right? So that tells me is like still bearishness, right? And if this gets rejected and people get very bearish that, oh, no, new low is going to be reached, and so forth, I think that's where a lot of support would come. And what I would be watching in that time is the volume. The weekly volume on Coinbase exchange has been a very, very, very good indicator of marking the bottom. So if you see this is the volume wick, and see where it is, right? It's really high. The COVID crash, the volume is very high, right? Uh, Even at this peak, the volume is very high. Even at this bottom, the volume is very high. This volume is just like nothing, right? So if the price just like sharply falls and the volume spikes, that basically means there are people who are thinking this is a good price to buy in, right? And that may mean we may find the bottom. Because remember, the next year is a halving, right? The halving happened around this time, May, April. And what happens post halving? The price just skyrockets. 2000, I think that, so this halving was 2020. Let's go 2016, right? So halving happened around 2016. And what happened to the price after that, right? Just skyrocketed. So this always happens after halving, the price skyrockets, because the Bitcoin production gets half. That's why it's called halving, right? So this is a pre-halving year, and what I'm expecting is a correction to ideally a capitulation to see a high volume, and if that happens, then we probably mark the bottom for Bitcoin, and then I'm expecting prices to rise into 2025, basically, right? So this was 2021 peak. We had another, run, but 2025 could be a year of like a massive crypto cycle and altcoin cycle as well, right? There's not much to see about Ethereum except just one small thing, which is uh, a long-term diagonal line is being still supported, right? It's like a big support here, a little support here around 950, 800, 900 range. It came back down, got supported again. It's quite high right now, but if we see that kind of capitulation that we are seeing, right, this could come to like 1300, 1400 range. And if we see a big volume spike at that time to support that level, that might be the bottom. Then we may not go to that lower, 500 range that we were expecting. Okay. So I'm not going to show other altcoin charts because actually it doesn't even matter. I want to go through my portfolio, the public portfolio that we've been, trying to just like learn from the D.C.A strategy. But the altcoins actually doesn't matter because it's all about Bitcoin. So they are pretty much flat, and they're going to stay that way until Bitcoin shows some bullishness. Nothing is going to happen magically in just like altcoin world in terms of the return until Bitcoin shows the bullishness. So why see other charts when we're dependent on one chart, which is Bitcoin, right? In terms of the public portfolio, I actually added like $1,000 in each Ethereum and Bitcoin because I'm seeing risk in terms of other altcoins, right? They are like bleeding heavily. So we'll wait, right? Uh, as you can see, the portfolio is like 8% down. Majority of the time we have been up 4 or 5, maybe one time 10%. But as I said, this is a consolidation phase in the sense we are building the portfolio slowly for another like 17 months, and we are going to see the season and the fruits in 2025, 2026, right? Not much going on in this world. I want to show you my stocks portfolio. So Coinbase corrected as well from the highs of 120 what we watched last time to now it's 83 because of the pump of the Bitcoin ETF news and so forth. So I added 10 shares around I think 74, 75 range, right? I also added a few shares of UiPath to Origin because I think the UI, sorry, not UI, but the AI stocks have corrected heavily because they were all riding in the hype, so they have corrected like 50%. UiPath is a stock that's not done much, and that's why I put some stocks on UiPath to build our UI, D.C.A strategy. And overall, our portfolio is up around 18%, right? And that's mainly because of Coinbase. We can quickly see what Coinbase is doing. So if I go to Coinbase, it absolutely beautifully touched this resistance level of around 120, right? Got rejected. And now it's trying to, in my opinion, it's trying to create a long-term reverse head and shoulders. And we'll see how it goes. There's a big volume that comes up to break this 120 line, and then stop is 200-ish, right? One last thing I want to show is NVIDIA. We talked briefly about NVIDIA and the importance of NVIDIA because NVIDIA is basically the stock that's talking about like what's happening in the AI world, right? So this stock has massive price to earning ratio. They recently had an earning, but they actually still outperform and said that the earning is pretty good, right? And that's why stock is still holding up even with its massive uh, you know uh, uh, price to earning ratio, which is around 230-40, right? Which is really high. It basically means that people are willing to give price 230, 240 times more than what they are earning, right? Or what it could do is it could just fund this AI stocks that I'm watching, right? So the AI list that I have is Palantir, Upstart, SoFi, PGY, and so forth, right? Also C3.ai. All these stocks have decent, well, AI had decent correction, Upstart had a massive correction, right? So that's something to watch as well. It went all the way to like 75 and it got corrected around 60%, right? In a short period of time because this is all riding the AI bubble hype, right? My point is the AI, this is a mini bubble. I think the actual AI bubble will come into picture when all these companies actually can cut cost of some of the companies with the AI technology. When that happens, that will be a massive bubble, right? In all these AI companies where anyone who mentions the word AI is going to get bought up and get like 20, 30, 40, 50% pumps in their after their decent earnings, right? Or they have a bad earning, but just because they mention the word AI, just because all AI stocks are going higher, that's when you basically know we are sort of in the bubble. And when you see a chart like this, you gotta say like, okay, we're gonna start exiting. I think that's 3 years down the road, 3 to 4 years down the road. but this bubble is in the making. So if you are a long-term investor, which what we are trying to do on this channel, you should be eyeing this D.C.A stocks and slowly D.C.A. So I'm watching D.C.A stocks and I'll be D.C.A. Maybe if the crypto gets slower, I would only invest in like, Bitcoin and Ethereum because other things become risky. But on the other hand, if the stock portfolio is like, stable in terms of like the AI stocks, I'm going to start DCing more of them. Thank you so much for watching this video. As I said, nothing on this video is a financial advice. I'm just a YouTuber trying to post content as I'm learning different things. Please follow me on Twitter. Please like and subscribe. We need to increase the number of views as well as the subscribers on the channel. This kind of research takes time, so at least you can do is tell your friends, like, subscribe. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.